Andrew from Exhaust Notes and Two Wheel Addicts. And we're here in the beautiful Gold Coast hinterland for a very special occasion. Harley-Davidson are launching their next generation of touring bikes. In particular, the 2024 Road Glide and Street Glide, receiving massive changes. The reason why this is so big is it's been around a decade since the last major upgrade on these models with the 2014 Rushmores. Now, we've had a chance to ride both models out through the hinterland today, through some nice twisty roads, some freeway cruising, and really get a taste and a feel for the big changes involved in these new bikes. But while we're here, the good people at Harley-Davidson have also given us something a little bit special so we can do a comparison. The last of the Rushmores, the 2023 Road Glide Special. So we thought we'd take the opportunity, while we've got both bikes here, to see the big changes and differences in the new models, and then we'll go through how they actually work on the road and the improvements they make. So obviously they've been dubbed as being lighter, more agile, more power, more aerodynamic, and feature a whole heap of new and improved technology. So let's start with the obvious. Let's start with the aero and of course the new shark nose fairing. So if we look to my left, we've got the Project Rushmore bike. So this is a 2023 model, the last of this series of bike. And you can see the traditional fairing. And this was a huge improvement when they came in 2014. This really redefined of how a touring bike handled and performed out in the wild. I've been lucky enough over the last 5 or 6 years to review a heap of these, as well as own a few of my own. And I can tell you I had a 2012 model bike, an Ultra, and going from that to these bikes was massive. And just like we've experienced today, moving from the Rushmore to this new generation bike, the same huge steps forward have taken place. So as you can tell, we've got a whole new front fairing design, new LED headlights. So the traditional shark nose with our twin headlights is gone for this beautiful LED display. If you get really up close and personal with it, you can see it's got a beautiful Harley and Davidson embossed in there, and it looks really sweet. I particularly like this today, looking in the rear vision mirror. It looks so much more aggressive in person when it's hunting up behind you while you're riding. It looks really mint. Now, the aerodynamic changes don't stop there. When we go down to the fuel tank has a lot more flat surfaces. The teardrop of the traditional touring model has been surpassed for this more aerodynamic with its flatter surfaces. And if you look at the bike on a whole, it projects as it's moving forward, which is a really nice feature. Now, perhaps the most controversial bit for me, personally, is I've always been a fan of the stretched out saddlebags on the Rushmore models, in particular the specials when they were introduced. They come down over the exhaust pipe and they just look sexy. And when you ride with your mates, there's nothing like going through the twisty stuff and just watching that as it just stays off the ground if they're really having a go. It's something quite special that only a Harley rider could tell you about. These new ones, they're a little bit more inspired by the King of the Baggers series. They sit up above the exhaust pipe. And it took me a little bit to get used to them, but I like them. It gives a nice sleek appearance. Still plenty of storage space inside them. And it just goes with the flow of the bike. I don't think the long, sleek stretch saddlebags will work on this model, but as a complete package, it looks very good. And that carries over to the new Street Glide as well. With this new model, Harley are really trying to redefine Green American touring. Now moving on to the power plants of these two motorcycles. Our Project Rushmore bike still utilises the 114 Milwaukee 8 motor. Great motor, it's been trustworthy for years, great power plant, can't say better things about it. This beast here has a new soul. it's got the 117 Milwaukee Eight, an extra 3 cubic inches, and as the old saying goes, there is no substitute for displacement. But it's so much more than that. So we deliver approximately an extra 10 kilowatts of power, which is the more horsepower we talked about early on, but it's the way it delivers that power. It's very smooth on the throttle. There's 4 riding modes to adjust to your riding style. We have a rain, we have a road, we have a sport, and we have a custom. Now, we got to utilise this out in the hinterland today, up some twisty roads. We got to flick it into sport, see how much more responsive the throttle was. We got a little bit of raining conditions where we could dull down the motor and not have that torque as snappy or as responsive and just ease through the corner, which is a really nice feature. Now, the other nice thing about this new motor is that it has an optimised cooling system which allows less heat for the rider's legs. The Milwaukee Eights and the Project Rushmores were pretty good in the twin cams early on, but again, Harley have taken this to the next level to accentuate that touring experience and make the bike as comfortable as possible. And the technology now on the outgoing 2023 Road Glide Special, it's worth throwing a leg over and trying not to kick the sign. But our riding position on this bike's very relaxed. You notice that the handlebars come back to us, and this is something we'll notice when we move over to the new bike in a moment. This bike is really set for highway cruising. You can lever down on the bars, and it's quite a nice place to be. We have some old analog gauges where our fuel gauge, our batteries, our speed, and of course our revs are located, as well as the boombox entertainment system, which has been the go-to since the Rushmore came out. It's developed a little bit over time, and it's always been a pretty good and dependable unit. All this is upgraded on the new bike, and that's where the technology starts to come to the fore. So we move over to the 2024 Road Glide, and there's big changes here. Everything from handlebar position is a little bit more forward, which we found a little bit nicer on the road. Allows a little bit more extra leverage. The bars aren't as close. Being a bigger bloke, I find sometimes that can be a little bit cramping, especially when compared to the Street Glide, but I really like the bar position on this new model. Also has the ability to push them forward a little bit more, which is a great feature, especially if you're a bit taller and have longer arms than yours truly. We have all new switchgear and grips, a lot more modern. I've ridden Harleys for years and I can't remember the last time just the switchgear itself has been changed. This is, I suppose if you're familiar with the Pan America or even the Sportster S, the switchgear is a lot more like that. The buttons are sharper, they still feel really nice to the touch, and they're really easy to use in gloves still. Nice and big, easy to engage, which is great. We start the flick on the bike, and this brand new 12.3 TFT display is a game changer. Analog gauges are gone. Think of the past. Everything is digital. Think high-end European car. Not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Harley, but we have digital speedo, digital rev tachometer, we have navigation, we have 3 different display options which we can toggle through. We can control our ride modes from here, we can control our Bluetooth music from here, we can even integrate Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So this is a huge step up for the motor company. We started to see these features trickle through in the 2023.5 CVO models. That really gave us a glimpse of what Harley were trying to do with these new models. And from our experience today, we did about 300 kilometres or so on them, and they've been quite successful. Yes, we don't have the 121 VVT engine, but the 117 is a cracker. It's a good thing, and I can't wait to put some more kilometres on it. This new crystal TFT display, it's big, it's easy to read, it's easy to navigate on the fly. It's got a plethora of options. I am interested to see how it lasts over time. If it's as reliable as the old analog gauges have been, that's just the technology critic within me. But as a consumer, it looks great, and a lot of people are going to look at this and just fall in love with the setup. But so far, we're hugely impressed with these new models. I'm a self-proclaimed Harley guy. I love Harleys, I love these big bikes, and these are a massive improvement. The motor's good, the tech seems to work flawlessly. I haven't experienced any issues with it today. But for me, the suspension, the handling. These things are so planted in the rear end. The front's really good. In the past, you can push through a corner, and Harley people will tell you this. You can sometimes get a little bit of wallow in the back end. I haven't managed to do this with one of these today. So there's an extra 22 mil of travel in the rear end, which is really good. It's a new shower setup, and the difference that makes, especially going through the tight stuff, it gives you a whole extra inch of ground clearance. It's brilliant. You're not scraping the floorboards. No one wants to make a serious investment in a bike like this and constantly be scraping it around corners. So for me, the rear suspension, it's a lot firmer, it's a lot more planted, it's a lot more confidence inspiring, and I'm really looking forward to getting out on my local tracks with one of these and seeing and pushing the bike to where it's really at its limit and really testing the suspension even further, because for me, the handling of these new bikes, all the other stuff's great, all the other stuff's nice, but the improvement in the handling is where these bikes are at. And that's what's going to make people want to upgrade from this bike to this bike.